I'm on. Welcome back to Don't Tick the Box. Today we have April's Scrawlrbox for you, which is very early. Well, a lot earlier than I anticipated and a lot earlier than I would reason to expect, considering that we are still in COVID and Brexit times. But since it got here early, let's get to it. As always, I give you the first few. Ooh. I'm seeing a lot of things that I'm liking already. But first, let's pull out everything underneath, because that usually gives us this month's Scrawler zine. Ooh. This month's artwork, which is flamingos, which I really like. They are one of my favorite animals. And the artwork is by Camilla Gardner. And then we have a pad of watercolor paper, 300 GSM, cold pressed. Let's have it feel. For a cold press, it's quite smooth, but it feels very sturdy, so this will hopefully hold water very well. Putting it aside. My paper apparently got ripped in transport. Oop. The supplies list which we are not going to look at just yet. And then something in tubes. You don't really need to guess what it's going to be. It's Daler Rowney Aquafine watercolor, and we have it in Chinese white, lemon yellow, raw sienna, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue dark, and Hooker's Green Dark. Again, we have some primaries, but not your standard. Well, I suppose lemon yellow is a standard primary. I really like this kind of color selection when you get like all the colors you need to mix everything else, but when it's just a little off. Like, except the lemon yellow, you would expect perhaps a yellow ochre, and another raw sienna, you would expect either a magenta or a cadmium red. But we got an alizarin. Ultramarine is a safe choice, I think, but not spectacularly safe. It's I would have expected a lighter blue, actually. And I really like the Hooker's Green. It's one of my favorite colors. But let's get on with the other stuff. You can see the sticker, which matches the Scrawler zine. Then we have two pencils, a black and white China graph for film, plastics, china and glass. So supposedly these are not meant for sketching actually, but for layering over the paint, I'm guessing. Then we have a water brush, but a very spectacular one. It has a really odd shape. Which I think is going to hold a lot more water than a normal brush would. You can see the barrel is very, very thick in comparison. And it has a push button for when you want to move the water out of it, I think, to get a really saturated feel. Oh, and it's by Durant, I didn't mention that. Never had one by Durant, I think, so I'm quite curious. And lastly, but not because it is least important, we have a Swizzlers Great British Puds Apple Pie and Custard. That sounds delicious, so I'm going to hide it from possible candy thieves. Boop. Anyway, once again we've been given a lot of colors and I will have some sharpening to do, so I'm going to zone out for a moment, and through the magic of editing I'm back for swatches. First of all, I'm going to try out these pencils. I do remember having gotten a China graph before, and once again I must note that the lead has broken during transport, and I do realize this is always a little bit of an issue when transporting pencils, but I do have a feel that this brand probably just have tender leads, and I really don't know whether this is because this is lead specifically designed to write on a lot of surfaces, which is a possibility, or whether this is just, I don't know, carelessness in the fabrication. I can't tell, but it does make for a pencil that I'm not really happy with. So, I mean, it shows up on the page and it probably layers well on paint, because otherwise I don't see any reason why they would include this in this box, but so far I'm not impressed, not at all. Anyway, onwards with the colors. First we have a Chinese white, which simply pours out, even without me doing any. I'm barely touching. Look, I'm barely touching the barrel and it just oozes out. This is not very convenient, but it does mean that they do fill their tubes to the brim, so at least you get bang for your buck. In contrast to the white pencil, this white actually shows up on page, and it's Chinese white, which I prefer over zinc white because it's a little warmer, which for some people is probably a stupid thing to say about white. Ooh, it really is quite a lot of paint. I probably should have put this in a palette so as not to waste it. Actually, I can still do that. We'll see. Once you get it on your brush, you do get an even coat, but I have been very clumsy and messy to begin with. I will have to do this a little bit more careful when swatching the other paints. I am very happy with the color though, and also with the smoothness of the paints. They are wonderful, really are. And my compliments to the designer of the water brush, because the slightest squeeze of the push button gives you exactly one big drop of water. You have absolute control, which is really, really nice, and which you don't often get, especially in the cheaper water brushes. Anyway, I'm going to wipe this clean and maybe pull out the palette so I can save the other paints. Alright, we're back. First of all, the alizarin crimson hue, which is very dark, sort of ominous red. Not quite blood red, more of a fiery red, which I really like. Next we have the raw sienna. It's a color that I actually never buy, because I always think that it looks quite muddy. But now that I have it, it's sort of it reminds me a lot of yellow ochre, but with maybe just the slightest hint of green inside. Quite lovely. Next we have the lemon yellow. A color we all know and love, and as expected gives the very, very bright and slightly opaque yellow that we can come to expect. Second to last, we have Hooker's Green, or Hooker's Green Dark, I should say. And I always think that I absolutely love this hue, but as a paint, it's tricky to work with. Like right now, I'm getting it on the page quite well, but it's rather transparent. I'm going to try and get it a little more opaque. But you can see already that it granulates more and it feathers more than the other paints. Which is, if you like that effect, obviously that's very nice. But if you want an even coat, obviously maybe this is not the green that you're looking for. And lastly, Ultramarine Dark. Again, it's neutral, or its mid-tone is perhaps the epitome of blue. This is just a little darker, but I really like it. Since we also got white in this set, I think this will work very well. This month's Scrawler challenge is Birds of a Feather. Some final thoughts. First of all, obviously very, very happy with the paint that we got, because you know I like aquarelle paints a lot. Also very, very happy with the color selection that we got. Very impressed with the paper that came with this box. I think it's by far the best watercolor paper pad that we've had from Scrawlrbox. But I'm really, really not happy about the pencils. Even the black on further inspection and use turned out to have a broken lead, which obviously does not help in use. And even what I expected that they would go really well over the paint turned out to be rather disappointing, because they didn't. I just used them very, very sparingly to add a few minor details in my drawing, but that's it. The water brush, I really like how much control you get with the push button, but I did find that the tip stained a little more easily than other water brushes that I had. So I'm not super excited yet. I think it might become a big favorite once I get the hang of cleaning the tip, but right now it's still in limbo. Overall, very good box, very good paints. As they are watercolors, they don't layer very easily, but they blend so well that, yeah, it more than makes up for not being able to layer them. And anyway, you know that with watercolors, layering is always going to be a little bit of an issue, so no qualms. I think that's it for today. I hope you like this video. If so, please like and subscribe. If not, leave a comment as to what I can do better next time. And I hope to see you next week. Bye!